Thank you.
It's a good public comment. My name is Mary Sorensen. I'm the communication director for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I've met a few of you, and I know some of you, but I just wanted to officially introduce myself and kind of let you know what we're about and how much we love Churchill County in our church. We have over 2,000 members of our church within Churchill County, so it's a big chunk, and we love being good members of the community. We especially love service. I just wanted to put some things on your radar. A few years ago, our church helped coordinate the sandbagging along the river, and our teens did that, and they loved it. And then last year, we coordinated with Jorge Guerrero to clean up the leftover sandbags over on Miners Road. So if you ever have service opportunities within the county, please call me. We love to put our youth to work, our little kids, our adults. We do two big events a year. In the spring, we do Global Youth Service Day, and that's with the teenagers. We like to, and not just our church, we like to involve kids at the school, all denominations. And then in the fall, we do 9/11 Day of Service, and that's more of a family-oriented event. The other thing I have to say is that I have organized for the last 2 years, an interfaith Easter concert, and I am here to personally invite you to that concert. It's non-denominational. We have it at a neutral location. This year, it's at the Fallon Convention Center. Last year, we had 5 congregations. The mayor came, so you guys can come represent the county. Maybe I'll make a pie for whoever has more represent. I'm just kidding. I do like making pies, but we'll talk about that later. But please come. We would love to have you. It's kind of under the umbrella of religious freedom. There's no preaching or proselyting of any kind at this event. It's just kind of a moment of unity in the county and for us to come together as Christians in the spirit of Easter. And so we just wanted to invite you. So I have really pretty cards for you. And then also, please, my business card is in the card. So if you can think of service, if you want to twist anybody's ear, please call me or email me. We love Churchill County. We love to be good community members and reach out however we can. So just keep us in mind. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, you can just bring them right up here.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? Okay, verification of the post of the agenda, please.
Tara Adams for the record. The agenda was posted on the 27th day of February 2026 between the hours of 1 and 5 p.m. at all of the locations listed on the agenda in accordance with statutes.
Thank you, Tara. Can I get a approval of this agenda as submitted?
Chair Guerrero, I move to approve the agenda as submitted.
Mr. Chairman, I second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. 6, consideration of possible action, approval of the minutes of the meeting held on January 28th, 2026, workshop, attrition and hiring policies. Can I get a motion for those minutes, please?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the workshop minutes held on January 28th, 2026.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Our first appointment, 7A, presentation by Brian Butazzoni, Project Manager for Bureau of Land Management, concerning the Green Lake North Transmission Line Project and proposed adjustments for Churchill County. And I believe Brian's online. The floor is all yours, Brian.
Good morning. Thank you. And I understand that there is an individual controlling the slide deck on your end. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, thank you. So hopefully you have slide number 1 open and visible to folks. I'm sorry, we don't have virtual capabilities. Apparently we can't load the app that the commission relies on. And today, slide number 1, I just want to provide the board with updates on the Green Lake North Transmission Line project. Slide number 2, obviously myself as Brian Butazzoni, Project Manager. Greg Helseth is on an assignment, and I have another Bureau of Land Management person listening with me, Scott Distel, who is the acting branch chief for our energy office in Reno. Slide number 3. NV Energy has stated that their need for the Green Lake North Transmission Line project is to facilitate a triangle across the state of Nevada for energy transmission redundancy, resiliency, and reliability. showing on this map is the One Line Nevada, the eastern side of Nevada. It went into service in 2014. On the western side of Nevada in green is the GreenLink West project. It was approved in September of 2024. It is in construction currently just south of the Desert National Wildlife Refuge there. And then lastly, the project that we're talking about today is the third link in this triangle of energy transmission, redundancy, resiliency, and reliability called GreenLink North. And GreenLink North would originate at the Robinson Summit substation in Elko and end at the Walker River substation in Lyon County. Next slide, number 4, shows you a close-up of the 235-mile-long transmission line from those 2 substations. It does connect through the Humboldt-Toyabe National Forest there in the center of the slide. They have an existing utility corridor that this project will go through. And then on the pink area, that is the Dixie Valley Training Area, who is a cooperating agency for the project. And when Congress expanded the Fallon Naval Air Station and Dixie Valley Training Area in 2024, Congress included a half-mile wide corridor within the DVTA, which this project is sited within. So that's kind of a couple overview maps of the project. Number 5, we'll talk a little bit about the alternatives that we've been considering over the last 5 years and some specific adjustments we've made in Churchill County. So in Churchill County, and we'll look at these maps, we made an adjustment near the Fallon landfill. We made an adjustment for the Popcorn Mine. We made an adjustment at the Desatoya Wilderness area and some Recreation and Public Purposes Act parcels that were included in that 2024 National Defense Authorization law. Broadly, we looked at 20 alternatives and alternative segments between the Walker River and the Robinson Summit substation. We had things recommended to us such as, why don't you go up to Wells and across the I-80 checkerboard down to Walker River, and we'll kind of look at a map showing those different variations of an I-80 northern alternative we looked at and a little bit of the rationale as to why we did not move forward on those. We had a recommendation that we considered undergrounding the entire line. The 235-mile long line is estimated to cost more than $800 million. A 525 kV transmission line has never been undergrounded in the United States for 235 miles, and the estimated costs there start at least $6.5 billion. Slide number 6 shows you the portion of the transmission line within Churchill County and the specific adjustment areas that we made during the last 5 years. And again, re-emphasizing that when the line crosses through the Dixie Valley Training Area, who again are cooperating agencies on this project, there is already a congressionally designated corridor that the project sites within. And we see on the left side of the map, we made some adjustments for the Popcorn Mine, the City of Fallon landfill, and the RMPP parcels. And over on the eastern side of the map, we have the adjustment for the Desatoya Wilderness area. Slide number 7 shows you a close-up of the adjustments that we made to move the proposed action. That's what NV Energy submitted in the green line there. So we worked with NV Energy and Churchill County's representative to move the line out of those hashed parcels, which are those Recreation and Public Purposes Act parcels. And you can see the black line showing the current alignment for the project. So we shifted the alignment out of those parcels. Slide number 8, same general area. And here we have the Popcorn Mine. And again, the green line is showing the original NV Energy's proposed route going through their mine operation area in magenta, and the kind of looks like a swimming pool is actually their pit area there. So working with the mine operator and NV Energy, we created a bypass of about 2 miles around the Popcorn Mine. Slide number 9 shows the adjustment we made for the city of Fallon and moving the NV Energy line, the green line, out of and away from the city of Fallon's landfill. Slide number 10 shows the last of the adjustments we made on the eastern side of Churchill County, where Congress in 2024 designated the Desatoya Wilderness Area, and in doing so, they shrunk what was previously called the Wilderness Study Area, kind of in that lighter blue, lighter green area. NV Energy's proposed line is the green line, and working with the Churchill County rep, NV Energy has moved the alignment away from, to the extent they can, from the Desatoya Mountains Wilderness Area. So those maps reflect the adjustments we made over the last few years working with Churchill County representative on this project. Since Churchill County is a cooperating agency, we've appreciated the feedback and assisting us in making these adjustments that have been incorporated into the Bureau of Land Management preferred alternative. During this process, we've had a number of calls for us to reconsider paralleling and co-locating with US Highway 50, and you can see US Highway 50 there on slide number 11, and you can also see where the checkerboard of Interstate 80 goes up from the Walker River substation on the left up to the Wells area up in the upper right of the map. We had several proposals come before us during the last few years recommending that we avoid US Highway 50 because of the lingo that it is the loneliest highway in Nevada, albeit there is transmission and there is distribution lines along a significant amount of US Highway 50. So we did look at these and worked with NV Energy about whether or not these would be a viable alternative for us to analyze. Slide number 12 shows some of the considerations that we make. Economics is a consideration, and you can see the change in costs of a 235-mile long line, $832 million at least. And then the other lines increase in distance because they have to go north before they can go west, before they can go south. And you can see those costs vary between $1.1 billion and $1.6 billion. Another rationale as to why these I-80 northern alternatives were suggested to us was that the I-80 checkerboard has Interstate 80, and going up to Wells is what's called the 368 utility corridor, and that going that route might be less environmentally damaging. In fact, when we look at some statistics here, the number of structures explodes as you increase the project's length. You can see that the 235-mile long stretch is about 1,000 structures, and increasing the project length increases the overall number of structures. The other suggestions were, could we move the project out of and lessen the impacts to the greater sage-grouse habitats and the greater sage-grouse leks? And in fact, all of these other alternatives increases the impacts to those resource concerns. So for these and other reasons, we did not analyze any Interstate 80 northern alternative. Slide number 13 explains where we are today, which is that we hope in a couple weeks to publish what we call supplemental documents. And these supplemental documents respond to 3 areas or 3 items. The first item was last June, we received a letter from Governor Lombardo's office that we should modify or remove the seasonal construction restrictions in greater sage-grouse habitats. And in Churchill County, the greater sage-grouse habitats begin in the Clan Alpines and continue east. As a result of that letter, we created an alternative E, and that is what will be made available for public comment, we hope, in the next few weeks. The second item that we're responding to is we have what's called a protest mechanism. When we launch these large projects that require planning efforts, and that required us to go through a 30-day protest period, we received 3 protests, and the protest report was sent back to us for us to further consider, clarify, or conduct further planning or other appropriate action. The last item that we're addressing in this supplemental document is what changed in December of 2025 regarding the greater sage-grouse plans. On December 22nd, the California and Nevada state directors approved new plan amendments governing how we conduct our business in greater sage-grouse habitats. The first area that was changed affected what are called general habitat management areas, and the zones or the allocations for these areas changed from open to avoidance to open. And then the priority habitat management areas, which are considered to be the highest quality of sage-grouse habitats, while they remain as avoidance, there is now a mechanism for the avoidance to be categorized as open. Slide number 15 just highlights the 4 items that were sent back to us for further consideration and further planning as a result of the 3 protests that we received last year. Slide number 16 is about the 2 key areas that the December plan amendments affect this project. The first is what were called in 2015 hard triggers, and I'll show you a map of what that means. And the second is what I'm already describing, which is the change in land use allocations for major rights-of-ways. And the best way to think of a land use allocation is a zone. Zoning for what purpose and what type of authorizations. Slide number 17 shows you that 155 miles out of the 235-mile-long transmission line proposed were affected by what are called hard triggers, which are based on population trends of the greater sage-grouse based on modeling conducted by the U.S. Geological Service. This is why we announced a second round of public scoping in March of 2024, because these red zones, as of March of 2024, were off limits to major transmission. Slide number 18 is kind of a high-level comparison of these zones or land use allocations. In 2015, GHMA was called avoidance, and in 2025, GHMA has been changed to open. And PHMA, those priority habitat management areas, remain as avoidance. There's some kind of different conditions about these things, and that's what the footnotes are about. And in 2025, the double asterisk indicates that there's something called an avoidance criteria, and if that avoidance criteria can be applied, then the land use allocation is open. Slide number 19 is the detail in the weeds here about what was stated in the December 2025 document, that resource management plan designated corridors within priority habitat management areas are open to consideration of major rights-of-ways. As I indicated, in March of 2024, we announced the second round of scoping, and in that announcement, we announced that we were going to create or designate a utility corridor. So this project meets this criteria. Slide number 20. I indicated earlier that the governor's letter in June of 2025 made a recommendation to us that we exempt the project and the utility corridor from the seasonal restrictions. And we have done that and we evaluated that in Alternative E. And Alternative E is what we're going to be opening a comment period up on, we hope, in the next few weeks. Here's what happened. You can see on this map, and you can see on slide number 21 about where the Clan Alpine Mountains are. And from that point going east all the way to the Robinson Summit substation for about 164 miles, 70% of the project intersects these different colored habitat areas for greater sage grouse. Without considering plan amendments, the construction of the GreenLink North project would be subject to a 45-day work period each calendar year because of these restrictions. In May of last year, we announced a partial exemption, creating and opening the construction period to 5.5 months. In this new Alternative E, we have a 365-day work period. Why is that important? This is northeastern Nevada. It's a bit challenging from December through March to work in the wintertime. Nevada Energy is under a legal obligation to have this transmission line in operation by the end of 2028. There's no way that a 235-mile-long transmission line can be constructed over 2 calendar years and for 5.5 months each year of those 2 calendar years. So we had to work further in responding to the Governor Lombardo's office's letter in developing a new alternative to provide a much more open period for the NV Energy's construction contractors to work in. Slide number 22 provides an overview of what our alternatives are. We have Alternative A. We're mandated to consider a no-action alternative, that the right-of-way would not be authorized and the project would not be constructed. We have Alternatives B, C, and D that have varying exemptions from these restrictions that were evaluated last May. And then we have the new alternative, Alternative E, which is what we're going to be seeking public input on, including the cooperating agencies, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. Slide number 23 characterizes what choices our state director will have based on these comments. The first choice, the first bullet there says we could select one alternative, we could select a combination of the alternatives, or we could modify an alternative to become what we call the selected alternative. We can also modify, the second bullet, the scope of the approved resource management plan amendments based on the comments that we're going to be soliciting for input on in the next couple of weeks. So sometimes what happens is folks get a viewpoint that we've already made all of our decisions and we've already made all of our choices about this project. Certainly we committed to, with NV Energy, to move ahead with their proposal, even though there are major challenges crossing through the sage-grouse habitats. But we still have some choices ahead of us here over the next few months. Slide number 24 shows you the project schedule. And I apologize that as of late yesterday, the project schedule that I'm now showing you is incorrect, that we are not going to be able to reach a public comment period on March 13th. We thought we had all the check boxes in order to start our comment period on March 13th, but in fact, one or two of those check boxes got missed. So we are hoping that the comment period for 30 days will start on March 27th, and then that would run through April 27th. If we're able to achieve that comment period starting on March 27th, then we would be looking at both the Bureau of Land Management and Forest Service issuing their decisions in June. Once we reach our decisions, then the NV Energy has to obtain their UEPA permit from the Public Utilities Commission, and we would project that would happen in August. And then if that falls in place in a timely manner, then we would expect construction activities to begin late or into early 2027. And as I indicated earlier, then they would have essentially all of calendar year 2027 and 2028 to make this project operational in order to meet the statutory legal obligation they have under Nevada state law to be operational by December of 2028. Slide number 25 is simply, or not so simply, do you have questions for me? And for the Bureau of Land Management, we do have NV Energy listening in, but we did not advertise that they were one of the presenters, so needless to say, they would not be available to respond to any comments or questions, but certainly if any are raised and they're directed at NV Energy, they are listening in to today's presentation. But for right now, are there any questions that you may have for the Bureau of Land Management?
Thank you, Brian. Any questions or comments from board or staff?
I have a question more directed at NV Energy since they're listening. They are very well aware of our needs for power in Churchill County. I'd like to know how much power will be dropped off in Churchill County, if any. So if they could give me a response to that at some point, that would be great.
Thank you for that. We'll make sure that I coordinate with them and see if we can provide you a response. The capacity of the line is up to 4,000 megawatts, but nobody has ever explained to me, like a little GPS tracking device, where do those electrons go exactly? And hopefully we can get you some information directly from NV Energy on where they expect those electrons to be distributed to. Other questions for the Bureau of Land Management?
Any other questions? Okay, thank you for your time, Brian. We appreciate it.
Thanks so much. We appreciate the opportunity to provide you an update on this project, and have a wonderful morning.
You as well. We'll jump to our 7B appointment, consideration of possible action, update on activities and approval of a funding request in the amount of $7,500 for the Churchill County Junior Livestock Show for resources and educational opportunities in fiscal year 2026. Karen, the floor is all yours.
Thank you. My name is Karen Bogdanowitz. I am here representing the Churchill County Junior Livestock Show. I am currently the CCJLS Vice President of the Foundation, and I serve on various committees with the Churchill County Junior Livestock Show. I have with us today Taylor Sowersby, who is the Oasis Chapter FFA President, Hannah Montalvo, who is the Churchill County FFA Vice President, Emma Elmore, who is a member of the Churchill County 4-H Baconators Club, and Owen Olson, who is also a member of the Churchill County 4-H Baconators Club. Just a quick brief on our 2025 show. It was held on April 24th, 25th, and 26th in 2025 at the Raptor 3C. It was our 86th consecutive livestock show. So we have been able to continue this livestock show consecutively through all COVID and everything for 86 years. This will be our 87th. For the past 3 years, we have included the Ag in the Class program that brings in 4th or 5th graders into the 3C, where there are stations of somewhere around 15 stations that the kids go through and are able to learn about agriculture and other things here in Churchill County that we partnered with the Churchill County Farm Bureau. They are the ones that oversee that and run that, but we do partner with them, so we get a lot of traffic through there. Last year we had 94 exhibitors. That was a little bit lower. That was partly due to the bird flu, and so we weren't able to have our poultry there, and so our numbers were down a little bit for that. It also affected our dairy cow showmanship and show, so that caused us to be down a little bit. We did sell 69 animals. That is 29,895 pounds of meat protein raised by the youth here in Churchill County 4-H and FFA members. So that's a lot of meat that they raise to put onto tables and feed families here in our community. Our sale brought in approximately $203,591. That included $8,488 in add-ons. After you do the math and you take out the market value of all the animals, that gives the scholarship benefits to our youth of $142,964. We sold 16 steers on average of $6,793. We sold 11 goats at approximately $908 a goat. We sold 24 hogs on average of $1,871. We sold 16 lambs on average of $1,745. We also sold 2 pens of 3 rabbits that averaged $225 per pen. Last year we did include what we now call the AgMech program. This allows kids that maybe do not have the opportunity to raise livestock animals for whatever reason, a chance to participate if they're in an ag or 4-H program to bring in things that they have made. So AgMech, like at the FFA level, would be like welding, woodworking, those sorts of things, and some crafts from the 4-H. That brought in $3,000 as well, which is included in the $200,000 number. This year we are excited to have our 87th year of a livestock show. We're going to, we're very excited to incorporate the America 250 logo on our awards, on our sweatshirts, and things that we have that we're going to be promoting. Let's see. We are including the AgMech program again this year, even though we had just a couple of kids that participated. We're hoping to get a bigger number of that this year, so we're excited for that. As you're aware, running the show continues to be expensive, and in order to keep the costs low and to help our youth be able to put some money away for scholarships to attend colleges or trade schools or whatever their choice may be when they graduate is our goal. So we are here to ask for the $7,500 to help support the Churchill County Junior Livestock Show. I'm happy to answer questions, or you can ask these 4 youth behind me any questions about their projects if you'd like.
Okay, thank you, Karen. Any questions or comments from board or staff? Okay, is there any public comment on this agenda item? If not, a motion, please.
Chair Ghetto, I would move to award the funding in the amount of $7,500 for the Churchill County Junior Livestock Show for resources and educational opportunities in the fiscal year 2026.
Mr. Chairman, I second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye, motion carries. We'll grab a picture real quick with them.
Thank you.
We'll move to our appointment 7C, consideration of possible action, ratification of a grant subaward amendment between the State of Nevada Department of Human Services Grant Management Unit and Social Services to increase the budget to add partial community service block grant 2026 funding allocation. Shannon?
For the record, Shannon Ernst, Churchill County Social Services. As I presented in December to you, we usually normally receive CSBG which is the Community Services Block Grant funding, in the amount of approximately $116,000 a year. The state receives their payments from the federal government on a quarterly basis, but they allowed us to be awarded the full amount in the beginning. Due to shutdowns, different regulation changes, these payments to the state have been actually delayed. So this year, the state has decided to allocate us funds based on when they receive the payments. So I presented to you the first in December, the first allocation we received of that, the total award of $27,847. This amends it. The second allocation we received is $23,209, bringing the total budget we received at this point just over $51,000. I was notified yesterday there is going to be a delay with the third quarter payment, and so we are working to see how this budget can be sustained with the staff that it supports. If there's any questions, I can answer.
Thank you, Shannon. Any questions or comments from board or staff? Is there any public comment? If not, a motion, please.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the increasing of the sub-award amendment as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Shannon.
Thank you.
7D, consideration of possible action, reversal of a water right deed, recorded document number 450522, previously dedicated by Alton L. Green Jr. and Norma J. Green for APN 009-271-04, and return of .45 acres of water rights. Dean?
Thank you. Dean Patterson, Public Works and Planning, for the record. So this is a water right that was dedicated in concert with an application for a building permit some time ago. In the process of, construction and decisions and family planning, ultimately the house was not built, and so the county code requires when a building permit is submitted that a water fee also, not a water fee, a water dedication also be done to compensate for the water being used by the well. So that was a code that they met, but then the house was not built, and so they subsequently would like to have the water back. So this is a reversal of that water right deed, and additional details are provided in the agenda report. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you, Dean. Any questions or comments from board or staff? Is there any public comment? A motion, please.
Mr. Chair, I move to return 0.45 water rights to Alton L. Green Jr. and Norma J. Green for assessor's parcel number 009-271-04.
Mr. Chairman, I second the motion.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Dean.
Thank you.
7E, consideration and possible action, selection of Loomis and Associates Incorporated to serve as the project engineer for the Moody Lane to Coleman Road Connector Project. Randy, whatever table you want.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Randy Hines, Public Works Planning and Building. So back in 2022, Church County was awarded a $4 million grant from the FY 2022 Community Project Fund. The purpose of this project is essentially to extend Moody Lane from Rice Road to Coleman Road. This actually gives a little bit a connector from the north properties. Instead of going east and west to the highway or Gummo, they can go down to Coleman Road. It would also include a bridge crossing the Carson River. Moody Lane would also be accessed for two developments that are on the south side and the north side of the river, one being Riverstone and the other one being River Park. With that, we advertised for RSO for requests for statement of qualifications last month. We received 3 of them. We had a committee that reviewed those, and after review of the RSOQs, we determined that Loomis and Associates was the best firm for the project. So today we're asking to, we'll recommend you to accept that recommendation, and then allow us to begin negotiations for fees and schedule. And with that, I can answer any questions.
Thank you, Randy. Any questions or comments from board or staff?
Mr. Chair, Chris Brous for the record. I do want to add, as Mr. Hines has mentioned, this is a congressional appropriation that the county received back in 2022 This appropriation does have a sunset, and we are fast approaching that sunset. We are currently working with Congressman Amadei's staff to see if there's anything that can be done to extend the deadline. Based on the information that we received in the RSOQs, we would not be able to get the design or the bid documents done by the deadline, which is to the end of September of this year. So if we can get the extension, then obviously we'll follow through with this. If we cannot get the extension, we will look at other options that we may have. This is merely now approving the design engineer to do the design, should we be able to move forward on this project.
Thank you for that clarification, Chris. Any other questions?
I'd just like to say it was nice to see 3 qualified candidates there to give us a good product. So it was a tough decision.
Any other questions or comments? Is there any public comment? If not, a motion, please.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve Loomis and Associates, add the design firm for the Moody Lane to Coleman Road Connector project as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. 7F, consideration and possible action adoption of Resolution 3-2026, a resolution adopting a fee schedule for all Churchill County departments. Randy?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, Randy Hines, Public Works Planning and Building. This is a continuation of the workshop we had last month. There's very just cleanup in the Public Works Planning and Building sections of this master fee schedule. And we can go over to any of those in detail as you wish. With that, looking at the last fee schedule that was adopted back in '24, we found that formats and fonts, it looked kind of a scrambled mess. So we kind of elected to reformat this fee schedule, populate everybody's fees onto the new fee schedule, along with Public Works Planning and Buildings. And with that, we didn't really change fee schedules, anybody's fee schedules, but if you can scroll down 2 pages, I'm sorry. We did add a general fees, and this includes like photocopies, where other departments would have 10 cents a copy and another one would have 30 cents a copy. So we kind of made that just a general fee for all departments. We did add a public records request in there. This was something that the civil DA and I worked together to put this into the fee schedule. And then everything else is kind of a regurgitation of the previous one, except for Public Works Planning and Building. And then at the last hour, we updated the 3C complex fees just to be more as their current fees. So with that, this is the new format. The intent of this fee schedule is to review this once a year, preferably in December, and bring this to you as one of the first items in January. If there are any changes, then we can just do it yearly instead of 20 years as we've done in our department. So that's the intent, is to bring it to you guys every year for approval. So with that, I can answer any questions.
Thank you, Randy. Any questions or comments from board or staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chris Spross for the record. Randy, on page 10, under the development impact fees for the park impact fee, I think it needs to be made clear. It says 1% of value or $1,000, and I think it needs to be made clear, is that the greater of the two or the less of the two, just so that when somebody looks at this, they understand what it is.
You got it. I'll check it out and see, and then we can add that, and I'll get it to Tara before it gets recorded.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Go ahead.
And when you say you review it every year, you'll just reach out to every department, give them an opportunity to update their list, and then that's how you're going to do that?
Yes, so just like we did when we created this one, we populated it, we sent it out, we did get some comments. Most of them are corrections, but there wasn't really anybody that's changing anything, except for the 3C, but yeah, that's the intent.
And then as we approve this today, we're still working on the in lieu of water rights dedication.
That is correct.
If it changes, then that little section will come back.
Correct. Yes, that is correct. We're still working on the study for that, and we'll be bringing that to you once that's complete, and then we can we can go back and touch base on the water and sewer connections as we discussed in the workshop. Again, those two items will require code changes because those are also in code, and ideally we'd like to get the numbers out of code and put it in this document and have code reference this document. So it's easier to change those as we see fit.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent plan, and this, the new format's excellent as well. So
Thank you.
Thank you for the time.
Any other questions? Is there any public comment? If not, a motion, please.
Mr. Chair, I move to adopt Resolution 3-2026, adopting a fee schedule for county departments.
Mr. Chairman, I second the motion.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Randy. 7G, consideration of possible action, approval of an agreement with the Churchill County Public Administrator in the amount of $50,000 annually to provide administrative services to indigent persons in Churchill County. Joe and/or Bob.
Good morning, Bob Ghetto for the record, Churchill County Public Administrator. We are specifically talking about item G, and item G is an increase in the amount of the basic yearly stipend to the public administrator to operate the basic necessities of the office as far as expenses to maintain that office. The change where we're at currently is $40,000 per year, and we moved that to $50,000 per year with the intent of using that additional $10,000 for the actual labor associated with processing what I used to call abandoned bodies, but they're back on. Unclaimed individuals or unclaimed persons. So there is labor involved to try and close and finalize those estates. Sometimes a person could die, pass away with $200 in the bank or $300 in the bank. And where we're taking those are full circle to get those bank accounts actually closed out. But there is labor and expenses involved in trying to close out those accounts.
Mr. Chair, I just want to make a little bit of a comment. You'll look at this agreement as it's presented. The payment of $50,000 is a payment to Mr. Ghetto for essentially the administration of all persons in Churchill County, including those that are indigent or would have potentially abandoned bodies, as was discussed here. It is intended to be a flat rate, and it is intended to encompass all of the aspects of that administration. So when you look at the further items of extraordinary expenses and things like that, this is intended to include those so that we don't have invoices coming middle of the year. There's also the $15,000 portion. That is the portion that is for necessary expenses related to the administration. Specifically, I believe the intent from Mr. Ghetto is to do the burial of bodies, whether they're indigent or not indigent, and then we will work on the county's end to ensure that it's paid out of the correct funds.
One clarification or comment I want to make is when the Assistant County Manager talked about that $15,000, that is outside of that $50,000. And so that is going to be, that $15,000 is going to be applied directly to the cost of cremation for unclaimed individuals that at the same time might not be indigent. Because an unclaimed individual can be unclaimed and indigent or unclaimed and not indigent. And so we don't want to affect the cost to social services for cremation of unclaimed that are not indigent. Can you explain that better, Joe?
Sure. We've sort of already developed a process and a plan with the Comptroller's Office on how that would be taken care of. The intention at this time is that when Mr. Ghetto or whoever is the public administrator identifies a decedent who needs to be buried at county expense. Whether, at this time they won't know whether they're indigent or not. He'll make that order, get an invoice, send it to the county. We'll identify that has been paid. Mr. Ghetto will keep that as a claim against the estate, and then when the estate is complete, he'll make a determination to say, okay, if there was funds in that estate to repay the county, he will do that. That would be a non-indigent case. We'll get paid back that way. If it is an indigent case, which means there isn't sufficient funds to pay back the county, then he'll submit that to the county as well, and we'll do a journal entry or something like that, I believe through the comptroller's office, to move the funds to social services.
So with that being said, I think it's important for the record to understand where item G says a $50,000 stipend to run the office, but then we've also talked about the $15,000 that goes toward directly to the mortuaries. Hopefully we can always stay under that budget, is what we're hoping to do. I just don't want the record to people to assume that it's 50,000 plus 15, which would be 65,000 to the public administrator. That is not true. The 50,000 is for the operation of the office and the labor to take care of those folks, where that 15,000 will be set aside for use to the mortuaries directly when someone is unclaimed or abandoned.
Okay, with that, is there any questions or comments from board or staff? And before we get too far, I'll be abstaining from voting as Mr. Ghetto is my uncle. So with that, any questions or comments?
I just wanted to clarify that this goes into effect in the 2027 budget, correct? Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Is there any public comment? If not, a motion, please.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the agreement with the public administrator as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Oh, I did not vote. I abstained from vote. 7H, consideration and possible action, adjustment of the public administrator hourly rate from $70 to $90 under NRS 150.030. Go ahead.
Bob Ghetto for the record, Churchill County Public Administrator. This specifically talks about an hourly rate in accordance with NRS 150. This was originally set at $70 an hour, and this was back in 2015 when myself and District Attorney Garner put this together. So this hourly rate is for extraordinary services that have to deal with an estate, whether it is a insolvent estate or not. But there are extraordinary services that the NRS carves out, such as the management of personal property, which is not a part of the probate process, the management of real property, the management of a business, the extraordinary services for a complicated case that requires court time. That is an hourly rate set aside for extraordinary services. Now, when an estate can carry its own weight, that charge is put to that estate and claimed through the district court process under the supervision of the district court. However, we did set this rate back in 2015, I believe, and times have changed since then. So this will be our first increase in over 10 years, and we want to round that up to an even $90 per hour.
And just for the board's information, I spoke with District Attorney Garner and confirmed that unfortunately this is an item that is in county code at present. Sorry, Deputy District Attorney Garner, as it relates to the price. The $70 an hour is currently in county code, and so it will need to be amended in the county code. Our recommendation at this time is that when that is done, it actually be removed as a number from the county code, similar to the water fees that we talked about, so that this board could adopt it as an individual item. So the understanding is that this would be intended to be in place by July 1st, and so we'll work to get that done if that's the intent of the board.
I just wanted to clarify, these charges will have to be approved by the court?
Yeah, what happens is, as there is accounting processes that you do for the court for every case. Usually, if it's a typical case, you can get this accounting process done all in one time. But there are many cases where it takes a second or third or even fourth accounting process for the court. So what we do is we do a complete invoice, and then that invoice breaks down the administrator's fee that the estate must pay, and that is subject to NRS, and it's a sliding percentage scale. But then when you have these additional expenses, then we have a separate line item, and then each case must be approved by the district court judge, and he will officially say these fees are correct or these fees are not correct. So that comes directly from the court and has nothing to do with the Board of Commissioners, except they are assigning an official hourly rate that we can use during court process.
Any other questions or comments? In the same situation last time, seeing as Mr. Ghetto's my uncle, I'll be abstaining from voting. Any other questions? Any public comment? If none, a motion, please. Go ahead. Your mic's off, Art. The bottom red button.
Bobby, turn it on for me. Thank you, Bobby. I just want to mention for the information of the commissioners, we've had public administrators before Mr. Ghetto, and in the past, we have had significant problems in accountability, in record keeping, in tracking property, and things like that. And I'm not placing any blame, it was just a problem because of the lack of expertise by the people that we had in that position. Since we have Mr. Ghetto doing this job, since he was elected, we have had zero problems of that type. He has done an outstanding job. He works very well with our office, which we appreciate, and he takes somewhat of a burden off of us and our civil division. So I just want to be sure that we recognize that, because often his work goes unnoticed, but he does, because his clients are not here to speak, of course. So we appreciate him very much, and I just wanted to add that the commission is making very wise choices as far as Mr. Ghetto is concerned. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? If not, a motion, please.
Mr. Chair, I move to adjust the public administrator's hourly rate from $70 to $90 under NRS 150.030.
Mr. Chairman, I second the motion.
And Mr. Chairman, if I could jump in really quick, just to clarify that the action taken today is really just directing staff to move forward with the code change necessary to effectuate that change.
Okay, thank you. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 And I abstain from voting, so it passes. We'll go to 7I, consideration and possible action, approval of payment to the public administrator for invoices for extraordinary services dated September 7th, 2025 and February 23rd, 2026 in the amount of $6,548 and $787.50. Go ahead.
Bob Ghetto for the record. This is specifically for item I. These are two invoices submitted by my office for extraordinary services, which we started talking about this months ago, and this is where we now have come to a point where we're going to try and make it so that we don't have any additional invoices. So this reflects back to item G, where we've moved from $40,000 per year to $50,000 per year, and the intent is for my office to run as lean as possible and always try and come under that amount so that we don't have any extraordinary services coming forward in the future. Based on the data where I've tried to go back and where this office is, as a function of society, is getting busier and busier every year. We can't do anything about that. But with this track, I believe that this amount should carry us through at least the next 4 to 5 years, I think. It'd be unprofessional of me to say something's not going to happen and changes aren't going to move. But this should be the last of invoices that you would see. Coincidentally, though, this is the end of our over 12 years now. Coincidentally, this is the first invoices the county has ever seen, but it also should be the last, if our prediction model is going to work. And I hope it does, and it should.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from board or staff?
Mr. Chair, I do have a question. Item G was just approved for $50,000, but up until July 1st, you're still under that $40,000. And you may, or I'm going to tap into your expertise here. Do you anticipate that from now until the end of June, there could be another invoice that would have to come in front of this board because that $50,000 is not in play yet until the next fiscal year?
There is a chance. Just as recently as yesterday, I've received another unclaimed individual. There is a chance. I can't say yes, I can't say no, but I think there might be 1 or 2 invoices that are going to straggle in. I think they're minimal. Let's just say they're $1,000 or so. I'm not sure, but I cannot predict that for sure. I just want to get to July 1st as soon as we can, and then it should start carrying itself.
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I just wanted to note that the invoice that was submitted is for a period from January 23rd to January 2023 through August 2025. So it crosses 3 fiscal years. So that's as far as we've gotten on this. And the only support that we received was what's been in your packet, just for your information. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sherry. Any other questions or comments? In the same situation for me, I'll be abstaining from voting, seeing as Mr. Ghetto is my uncle. Is there any public comment on this agenda item? If not, a motion, please.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the payment to the public administrator for extraordinary services in the amounts of one invoice for $6,548 and a second invoice in the amounts of $787.50.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 And I abstain from voting. Thank you, Bob. Jump to 7J, consideration of possible action, presentation and update on the Churchill County compensation study. Joe?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Joe Sanford for the record. We have Baker Tilly here, hopefully on Zoom, to provide an update and presentation to the board on the current status of the compensation study.
That's right. Well, good morning, everybody. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can.
My name is Sarah Town. I'm the Senior Consulting Manager with our Classification and Compensation team here at Baker Tilly. Very excited to be able to share with you an update on where we're at in this process and be able to answer any questions that you have as we go into our next steps. So as a reminder, we are working through a 5-phase process. Well, if I can advance my slides, that would be good. This. A 5-phase process with the county, starting with project initiation, looking at our planning meetings, and then a very large data collection effort, looking at pay structures, policy handbooks, job descriptions, organizational charts, and then throughout this process, we also started by engaging with leadership in the form of first a department director questionnaire, having them tell us in their own words an opportunity to understand what issues they are having when it comes to classification and compensation, recruitment or retention with specific positions, and then understanding who we should be comparing Churchill County to in the market. We then conducted our communication meetings with department heads and leadership as well. We wanted to make sure that we had an opportunity to engage with them early on. Our initial kickoff was November 19th, and then we met with department leadership on December 16th. Using those job descriptions, we then move into phase 2, started with title review. Looking at the job descriptions, reviewing all titles, making sure that the positions are accurately titled and reflective of the work being done. We then conduct job evaluation. Baker Tilly has its own point factor tool called SAFE, stands for Systematic Analysis and Factor Evaluation. It's what the county will use moving forward, if adopted, to maintain a hierarchy of jobs within the organization, how positions compare internally to each other. It's a measurement of the position, not the person in the role. So we're not looking at what individuals within these roles have in terms of their education or their experience. We're looking at what are the minimum qualifications to fill the role. We use the same 9 compensable factors to evaluate all of the jobs in the county. We start with education experience, again, those minimum qualifications. We look at the level of work or the complexity of the job, who you're interacting with on a regular basis, the physical demands, those working conditions or what we call environmental exposures, whether the position has autonomy and discretion, independence to act, and then what's the impact of those actions and decisions on the organization or the community at large. We then look at the type and scope of supervision exercise. The result of this process is a score for every single position. Job evaluation was complete and then reviewed with the project team on January 14th. While we were doing that, we were also looking externally in the market. So we looked and prepared a list of comparable and competitive peer organizations. We started that conversation in our department review meeting in phase 1, really understanding who we should be comparing to. And then we also had an opportunity to share that information with all of you to make sure that we were selecting the right peer organizations. It was determined early on, and the market survey was then distributed December 29th. We incorporate then these 10 public peer organizations with 2 of our published salary sources. That's going to help represent the private industry in our data set. In total, we took 100 positions to market, representing about 60% of the positions overall. And when that data comes back in from those peer organizations, we do make some adjustments to that data. So something like work week. If another organization is on a 37 5-hour work week, we want to make sure that those annualized rates are comparable. We may age the data if it's not for the current fiscal year. And then we also do a geographic cost of labor adjustment. But most importantly, we are not weighing the data. So no one peer is given preference over another. It's really this law of averages. It's the average market value for a position. So these were then the 10 peer organizations to be included in the study, and we were able to collect and compile data from all 10 peers. And then you see the 2 published surveys as well, representing our private industry, Comp Analyst, and Economic Research Institute. We really like those data sets because they're updated every 90 days. So this data was pulled just after the 1st of January to make sure that it's relevant for the current market. And the result and the adjustments that we make to the data of cost of labor. So most folks are familiar with cost of living. It's the measurement of goods and services in a given geographic area. What we're adjusting the data by is by cost of labor. It's a much more steady indicator. This data comes to us from the Economic Research Institute. They have a geographic assessor tool, which allows us to drill into a specific geographic area. Ideally, it's the county seat. Sometimes it's just the closest zip code that is a function of the data. In this case, we have that geography for Churchill County. You see at the top there, the cost of labor being 98.6. That's off of a scale of 100, the United States average being 100. And so you're about 1.4% less than the United States national average for your cost of labor. We take that same indicator for each of the peer organizations. So as we have organizations with higher costs of labor, like Elko County, we're adjusting their data down to make it a good apples to apples comparison with Churchill. We then also adjust the published sources as well. That's adjusted to the Nevada state average. In addition to these geographic adjustments for cost of labor, we also know that we have one peer in this data set that we wanted to include. We wanted to absolutely make sure that we were benchmarking ourselves against, and that's Washoe County. But we did look at evaluation for these, and we did determine that there's an additional adjustment of 10% to level set for a bit of a lag compensation philosophy here for Washoe County. Just size and scope of operations, much larger entity. We wanted to include that data, but we did adjust it a bit further. So you can see there the cost of labor adjustment is 13%. It's actually 3% for cost of labor plus this additional 10%. So it's not an additional 10% on top of that. It's a total of 13% that we're adjusting Washoe's data by. And then the results of market. So again, in total, we took 100 positions in the market survey. We were able to obtain data for 92 of those positions. So we require a threshold of at least 3 matches per benchmark position. So in some cases, we're only getting 1 or 2 matches. That's not really enough to calculate a market value. That's just you against 1 or 2 other peers. So we have this threshold of at least 3 to be able to say this is enough of a market. And then we did look at then the strength of those benchmarks. The more matches we have, the more we are confident that that's the true market value for a position. Of these 92 positions with sufficient data, they had 5.9 matches on average, and almost 50% of the data had 6 or more matches. So again, the more matches, more we are confident that that's the market value for a position. In looking at these 92 positions, on average, Churchill County is currently 6.1% below market at the minimum, 9% below market at the midpoint, and 10.7% below maximum. And as we looked at understanding if this was surprising, it was not. From the project team and even from leadership yesterday, this was kind of in line with the expectations of where they determined and kind of where they felt that the salaries are currently. And this is just a function of your current base salary structure. So this is not inclusive of anything like benefits or supplemental pay practices or anything like that. We are just looking at determining, can we get base pay correct? And right now, your base pay in terms of your overall structure are lagging market. Market will inform us for 2 purposes. The first is what adjustments we need to make to the overall pay structure to align to your compensation philosophy. The second is actually informs positions specifically. Positions move at different rates in the market. Some are doing pretty well. They're actually competitive with market, about 8% of the benchmarks that we looked at. A quarter of the benchmarks that we looked at are actually right in line with market. They may have received recent adjustments, and so they're keeping pace with market. But the majority of the positions that we looked at, again, 68% of the benchmarks that we looked at are lagging market by at least 5%. And so we can tailor this now to understanding which positions may need more of an adjustment as well. So the market review was then complete on February 3rd. We reviewed this information with the project team, provided you all with an update as well, and then we've moved into now phase 4. So phase 4, having those 2 big bodies of data complete, we then started with an analysis of your existing pay structure. So our phase 4 of pay plan development happens in 3 stages. The structural adjustments first, the position adjustments, and then the people adjustments. Always in that order. We want to make sure that we have an overall structure that's aligned and tailored to the study's results, but also to our market and our compensation philosophy. In having discussions with the project team and where we wanted to be in terms of our alignment to market, we've decided to take a match market philosophy, working to match what's out there in terms of the market. Then we have to figure out where each of the positions go in this new pay structure. We look at all of the available data and information. We're looking at the job evaluation or those internal equity scores. We're looking at the market data to understand if it's significantly below market and needs more of an adjustment. We look at current and existing equity. The position right now is already competitive in market. We're not going to move it down to realign it to market, essentially kind of hold it steady where it is. So we want to make sure that we're looking at where positions are currently and which positions are currently grouped together. But from there, we make additional adjustments. Career progressions. If market is moving an entry-level position up, it might have what we call the accordion effect on the rest of a progression. We also look at supervisor-subordinate separation. We did include department heads in a preliminary review of grade assignments. That happened yesterday. When we originally developed the pay plan recommendations, we reviewed that with the project team on February 13th, and then we completed our grade review with that project team on the 19th. So we were able to then provide that information ahead of time. Department heads had about a week to review that information. Several of them have been heavily engaged in this process, providing us with additional information, asking questions. It's been a really great group to work with. And so we also then had a meeting yesterday where we sat down and reviewed the preliminary grade assignments. This still needs to be finalized, so we're working through some of the information on where the positions are going to go, but we wanted to get enough of this to be able to start to have some conversations about implementation and cost. So up until this point of the study, I haven't talked about the individuals and the roles at all. our goal is to separate the position from the person as much as we can. What is the value of this position? What's the value of this position internally? What's the value of this position in the market? And then making a recommendation. Once we get to implementation is now when we can start plugging people back into the conversation. Where are employees at in relation to these new recommendations? And we did provide 3 implementation scenarios for consideration at this time. So if you're familiar with the current pay structure for Churchill County, this should look familiar. You currently have a 100 grade and step structure, which means there are 100 grades. I can only fit 36 of them on a slide. So this is just a snapshot of your current pay structure. It also has 13 steps. So minimum being that step 1 all the way up to a maximum of that step 13. We then have an alignment and understanding of where midpoint occurs. We like odd step pay structures because then we understand that there's a mathematical midpoint. In this case, that step 7 is our anchor to the market. It represents when somebody's fully proficient in the role. So as we look at an analysis of this existing pay structure, what we determined is that the current pay plan just has too many grades, several of them which are not in use. You have 100 grades and only 48 of them are in use, many of them having only 1 or 2 positions in those grades. Essentially, you have pay ranges for almost every single position and not a lot of comparison across those positions in terms of internal equity. Right now, there's approximately 2.5% between each step, or a step increase as you move from step 1 to step 2 all the way through the step system, 2.5%. And that's simply too small to keep employees competitive with the market, especially once they move beyond the minimum of the range. The number of steps, the percentage between steps, and where you're already starting your pay structure is where we saw the results in market, just that lag. We need to make sure that this pay structure is aligned to market from the very beginning. There's also a large number of steps, which is causing some compression between grades. It means employees are existing in those roles for a longer period of time. The average of your workforce right now is for time and position is about 6 years. So as employees are moving through this step system, each step is representing a year in the role. You don't have too many employees that are reaching the top end of those steps, unless they were put there because they have to offer starting salaries or promotion opportunities that push them much further into the range. One of the other pieces that we just looked at is under the current structure, the positions are just scattered unevenly across grades. Several grades containing only 1 position, which is just limiting mobility and clarity. Having a proposed consolidated pay structure is going to be a little bit more balanced in terms of understanding how positions compare to each other internally. How are like and similar positions? The job evaluation system is going to be really helpful language for the county to adopt to understand differences in positions. So in this consideration, we then have built a brand new pay structure for Churchill County. The proposed pay structure is a bit more modernized. It takes the county's current step and grade framework and making targeted and structural improvements. No longer do we have 100 grades. We now have a targeted list of 29 grades. And it's also going to reduce the number of steps slightly from 13 to 11, but not decreasing employees' earning potential. We actually have increased the step differential from 2.5% to 3%. That's going to keep you in line with market. In this step and grade structure, still an odd step, which means that middle step is our alignment and our anchor to market. Now, step 6 represents when somebody is fully proficient in the role. We also, in your 100 grade system, you have about 2-3% between each grade. And so that led to a lot of compression challenges. What we wanted is meaningful differences between each of the grades and some consistency. So it's 6% as you go from grade 1 to grade 2 all the way up the pay structure. It's a consistent 6%, just so we can have career progressions that are much more common, being able to actually have progression within the structure itself. We often get the question of, well, where do these numbers come from? How do we arrive at the 6% between grades, the 3% between steps, the number of steps in general? It's not a magic, it's not a mystery, it's actually a whole lot more math than anything. So we use a regression analysis to determine the relationship between job evaluation and market. It tells us the line of best fit through the market data. And if we take a match market philosophy, our goal is to have your proposed pay plan and the market align. That's what this graph is representing. So you can see there's a dark blue line in the middle, that's our regression line, and then the proposed pay structure of a minimum, midpoint, and maximum really running alongside that exact same line. That was our goal, and that's the tool that we're using to develop this recommendation. So, but this does not inform where the positions go. This just tells us what adjustments we need to make to the overall pay structure. We then have to do grade assignments, where we look at individual positions, again, line by line, position by position, as we develop and understand where each of the positions are going to arrive on this new pay structure. As a result of this process, going through grade review and understanding all of the data, making recommendations, we now have a much more even distribution of the positions across grades. You can see your current system, not many grades in use, only a handful of positions in certain grades, kind of up and down all over the place. Here in the second graph is the number of positions by their currently proposed grade. There will be some adjustments here as we still review the information from the directors. But this is now showing a much more even distribution of the positions across this new grading structure. All 149 unique classifications were classified to a grade, initially based off of market. We wanted to let market results help drive some of the recommendations, so we're leaning heavily on the market first. But from there, we need to make adjustments. Market is one part of the puzzle. It's not the only thing that we focus on. Market is a snapshot in time, and it may change here in a little bit. So we wanted to take into consideration other factors when we make our recommendations. So something like SAFE evaluation scores, looking at the job evaluation or how positions compare to each other, the existing placement of the position, career progressions, again, from entry level all the way up to our supervisors, supervisor subordinate separation, making sure that there's enough distance and separation, especially as we have all classifications in here that are going from a non-exempt eligible for overtime and then exempt positions. If they're willing to give up their overtime, we want to make sure it's worth their while to take a salaried role. That's what we're looking at as we consider the recommendations for the positions as well. We also look at grade compression, just to make sure that there's enough distance between each of those grades. So this part of the process was complete and done with our initial recommendations. We then moved to understanding where each of the positions are. We emphasized to leadership yesterday that it's really about this data-driven process, looking at all of the available data. We had some great questions about career progressions or internal equity and how we evaluate the positions, even understanding the market data and clarifying some of that market data. But throughout the process, it's not about the person in the role. So when we're considering assigning positions to a grade, we're not looking at people, we're not looking at performance or length of service, even the employee's existing salary. It really needs to be about the position itself and what the work demands. Once this is complete, we will then be able to finalize the implementation scenarios, but we do have the implementation scenarios right now for consideration. So we have gone through the process of then starting to plug people back into the conversation. We've developed 3 implementation scenarios. I'll speak about them kind of high level, and then open it up to any questions that you have about our process. I do have a couple of caveats about these 3 implementation scenarios. The first is that Baker Tilly does not recommend a pay decrease for any employee as a result of the study. So in some cases, we do have 6 employees that have a current salary that is above their proposed maximum. We're not taking money away from those 6 employees to make them fit within this pay structure. We essentially hold them where they are until the pay structure catches up. And then these calculations reflect base pay only. They are not inclusive of anything else like supplemental pay practices or benefits. So our 3 implementation options. Remember, this is a step and grade structure. So the first option is just to get everybody onto this pay structure. Employees will move to the step that is closest to their existing salary without a decrease. Again, not taking money away from employees. We just want to move them to the step that is closest. This is the minimum action required to adopt the proposed pay plan. But the point and purpose and function of a step and grade system is that each step represents a year in the role. So option 2 will move employees into this new system based on their time in their position, how long they've been in their current role. If they've been in their role for 3 years, they would move to step 3. If they've been in their role for 6 years, they would move to step 6. This is just to alleviate some of that compression with employees with the same title that have many different years of experience. But it is a an adjustment based off of time and position, not full tenure with the county. Making the adjustments to the number of steps, we don't have too much in terms of that reduction, going from a 13-step system to an 11-step system. So this option 3 is really just maintaining where employees are at and how far they've progressed in their current grading system. Employees would move to the same step in this new system that they currently occupy. So if an employee is currently at step 3, they would move to step 3. Those are our current recommendations for the implementation. As I mentioned, we are in the process of finalizing and updating the information back from directors on where the positions are, and then we'll finalize these implementation scenarios. But I would love and welcome any questions that you all have as part of our process.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from board or staff? Do you have anything you want to add, Joe?
I will just talk about the implementation scenario just so that people do understand, and maybe Baker Tilly can add. There was a discussion on the option 2 of putting a cap on the years in position, I think of 9 out of the 11. So if there's feedback about that decision, I think that would be helpful. But otherwise, I'll just be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments from board or staff? Okay.
I have one question. The cost of labor adjustment, is that typical of what, how that worked out for us? Is that typical of what you've done for other entities?
Let me show you this. The cost of labor is something that we do for every single client that we work with. So absolutely focus on cost of labor adjustments, taking the geographic differences out of the equation. Where your question may be stemming is from this additional adjustment for Washoe County. Typically, I do that with municipalities that are surrounding larger metropolitan areas. In this case, it kind of made sense from a geographic standpoint from a county in relation to a much larger entity. So we've done it in similar circumstances. It's just an application that we did. It's kind of stating that you don't plan on matching Washoe 100%, but you're going to try to get there at least 90% of the way.
Thank you. That's exactly what I was getting at.
You bet. Any others?
Any other questions or comments? Okay, is there any public comment on this agenda item?
I think we do have several comments from some of the department heads and elected officials. Mr. Chairman, I would just like to say on my behalf, this is a work in progress. There's still some things we need to address, and I think we're working on that through Joe and the people we're talking to. So we'll just keep working on that, but it's certainly not a done deal at this point. And I'll defer to, if I may, I'll defer to the other elected officials if they might have some comments that they want to address to you about it.
Do you guys have anything you want to add?
Yeah, Tasha Hesse, recorder for the record. I think that the product that we've received, the product that we received and that we went through yesterday was a little alarming. There's a lot of discrepancies, a lot of things. I mean, if you look at, for example, grade 8, if you go there, tons of those went to market, but they did not apply market to where they recommended those steps go. It's hard for me to believe that if 14 is the midpoint on a 29 scale, how Churchill County employees, 67 of them, not employees, but titles, fell in the 8 to 14 range. That would be below the mid. How are we so below still? They didn't apply market. They applied their safe evaluation and moved market down and not part of it. So I do think there's some major discrepancies and things that we need to look at as a whole.
I would agree. During yesterday's meeting, I was fairly vocal because I have questions and I haven't had any answers. They stated that they have met with department leadership. I haven't had any direct contact with them other than I've sent them emails. In addition to that, there was a comment made about not having anybody come in at a lower rate on wages. If you look at one of my positions, it's currently rated as a 6. Market value puts them at an 11. They leave them at a 6. And the starting wage is lower than what it currently is, and the ending wage is lower than what it currently is. And so while that person might make more if transferred to the exact same step, overall, they will be losing money when they look at their top-end salary. And so that is some concerns that I have, and I did voice those questions, and that was supposed to be evaluated. I asked her if we would be part of that evaluation. That was not confirmed. And so I have some concerns, and so I would ask that we not vote to agree to this today and allow us to continue to work on this process.
This isn't going to be voted on today. And I'd just like to make a statement. You know, I said when we started this process, there may be some people that aren't 100% happy where they fall in this. And that's the risk. And we decided to go with an outside firm to get experts, and so there is no bias. And so it's fair, you know, to say that I stated specifically, when we pay to do this, this has been done before and we threw it out the window. I do not want to just, you know, and I agree with Art, this is a work in progress. We're not voting on this today. But you have to understand, market value is market value for position, not people. So I just don't want to get that confused. And I knew this was going to happen. No matter who you do it with. Would have done it internally. It's a double-edged sword. Somebody is not going to fall where they think they should fall. A position is not going to fall where they think it should fall.
And I understand that, sir, and I appreciate that. My question is just so I can explain it a little bit to them where that fell into. Just looking for a little transparency so I can explain it to my people where that's at. We understand that risk.
And respectfully, I understand what you're saying as well, but 67 titles falling under midpoint in Churchill County when you look at their market data that they have on there, it doesn't even align with market. That's a concern.
Those are questions that are going to be answered as we move forward.
Any other questions or comments? Go ahead, Joe.
Sarah, maybe you could help also out with this. I know we discussed specifically the county manager, who obviously isn't going to provide any information on his own, and I won't be because I am his subordinate, but this board would be the people to make, I think, the presentation to. Your proposed, I think, table does not include that position on the table, is why it ends at grade 29. Would you maybe give the board a little update about what your intentions are related to that?
Absolutely. So we did, at the request of the project team, go and look at market data. So we do have market data for our county manager position. Happy to provide that information as it informs, but it will not be part of our recommendations for a position on the pay scale. That is up to this body's discretion to make that salary recommendation. So it is not part of our one of the 167 positions that we looked at for recommendations. But we did have market data. Just hopefully that informs what you're looking at. Anything else, Joe?
I would just have a couple questions for Baker Tilly. I just want to make sure that during this process, everyone that you wanted to communicate with has communicated with you.
We have some follow-up conversations still planned ahead. So yesterday was the first time of hearing a lot of the feedback from department heads. So when I say we met with department leadership, that occurred yesterday. So there was not any additional breakouts that happened. We've engaged with leadership at the beginning with our department director questionnaire and our first kickoff presentation with them. Yesterday was the first conversation where they've got an opportunity to provide us with their input. There are still some follow-up conversations that Baker Tilly will conduct to make sure that we have a good explanation. We want everyone in the county to be able to explain the results to the employees when this does get rolled out.
Thank you for that. And I just want to make sure everyone knows this is a work in progress. I think some people are you're getting too deep too early, and some of your concerns need to be flushed out. I get that. That's why email is easy. You have a question, you send the email. If they don't respond today, that's fine. You have record you sent the email, and we can make sure that email gets addressed before we close this process out. Okay? So I think let's not get too excited too early. And I think it's still early. I think a goal that I have today is to sort of get us in the ballpark of what it's going to cost so we can move forward with our budget. I made that very clear to several people. And we still have time to get all the details worked out. I think personally that Churchill County's pay schedule, its current one, is just another tool of comparison. So those of you who are comparing what you think the new wage is going to be to what the old wage is, you can't do that because it's two different products. The old pay scale, it may be wrong. It may be low, it may be high, it may mean nothing. So when you say your employees are going to be less or whatever, well, they could be wrong to begin with. So you have to figure that out, okay? And another thing, when we put out for certain positions, you spoke to some of the positions didn't move the line. Well, if we're getting 15 or 20 or 10 applications for that position, I don't know that wage is wrong because you're getting enough applicants for the position. So that's something to think about. So I think it's just a little too early to stand a line that you don't agree with what this company's doing. This company does this professionally. They do it across the United States. We are not an isolated community. We are a rural community. And I think people need to also keep that in mind. Our model is rural community. We don't compare to Reno. We don't compare to Washoe County. So their pay model is going to be different than our rural community. They don't have what we have. So if you think the wages are going to be the same here they are in Reno, I think you're lying to yourself. So you have to take that into consideration. So I want to make sure that everyone doesn't get too excited too early, and be assured, as we promised you early on, that we want a comp study. We want our employees to be paid correctly, but we don't even know where we started. We don't even know if where we started is correct. So we got to get it corrected first so we can move forward in the future. We want to get a plan in place that is easily to update as often as we want to update it, to make sure we've done everything we can to entertain you or any other citizen to be employed here in Churchill County by Churchill County.
And I want to make sure that the communication is still open, because if the department heads, elected or otherwise, have concerns with the information that was input, that's where the discrepancy may be coming from. So the communication needs to still be open. We're still in the midst of this thing, and it's by no means complete. So I just want to be sure that communication is still happening from this. And I don't, there are concerns. I get it, Tasha, there are concerns, but that open communication still needs to be happening.
We will get this flushed out and approve the most correct method. And as Commissioner Hyde has spoken before, not everyone's happy, and some are going to be happy. And that's an example. Not everyone's happy on Christmas morning. So that's just how it is. So make sure you know that we're here for you. We're going to do the best job we can. We've entrusted a great company to do this job, and they're going to provide us with an excellent result.
And I don't want to get happy confused with fair. Okay, so let's, we want it to be fair and equitable, and that's what we're working for. And we want our employees here to be taken care of fairly. That's our goal through this.
Thank you. That's ours as well.
So some of the direction that I think the board may want to give today is to continue the communication. Joe, you may need to step up the communication between department heads and Baker Tilly and yourself, and maybe it's time to enact that approval we gave you to get them on site. Evaluate that with everyone and make sure, is that going to be more valuable than trying to do it over the phone or over the video? So the direction I'd like to see us give today is to do what I just said, and then get a little bit closer, each week, get a little bit closer of a final product.
And speaking for myself, if we've got to pay that fee for them to come back out, I'm fine with doing that. Because I feel like when you come face to face, I think things get fleshed out a little better. If that's the better route, I'm fine with doing that.
Agreed.
So if that's what you're looking for today, I don't think we have to take a vote on it or anything like that. That's just some of the direction we're giving.
Yep, just giving direction.
I think Mr.
Go ahead, Mr.
That being said, do you, if that's the position you want to take, do you want to have a rolling agenda item where this gets discussed at every meeting, or do you want a rolling agenda item where this gets discussed at the first meeting of the month? How do you want to proceed with that so we can get that scheduled not only with our folks here, but also with Baker Tilly? What would you like to see?
Personally, I'd like to see probably just a rolling agenda item on each meeting, and if there's not an update, then there's not an update, but at least that gives an opportunity for anyone to state their opinions or...
Yeah, and I don't think we're not going to be able to hear anything new until some things get resolved, fleshed out.
Commissioners, Lane Mills, Deputy District Attorney. One of the things that I didn't see, and maybe it just wasn't included in this phase, is one of the things we had initially brought up was a standby pay for those low-level employees. I didn't see that they did that. I didn't know if that got communicated to this, I think they called it the leadership team, but from our perspective, that cuts across a number of departments. It's a pain point at our low levels. And I didn't know if if you guys wanted to address that, the standby pay.
I mean, I have my feeling on this, but go ahead, Joe.
I don't believe it's not in our current study, but I will discuss with Baker Tilly if there is something that can be addressed, and happy to take additional direction.
I'll just add, we did add a question to that on our survey. So if we do have the survey complete from these peer agencies, we might be able to cobble together that information and aggregate it to get at least here's what your peer entities are doing in terms of standby pay. But we're focused on the base pay right now. We can look at supplementals after.
She answered my...
Okay, any other questions or comments, or Joe, do you need any more guidance from us?
I don't believe we need any additional information. I will continue to bring back updates as they come, not always with Baker Tilly, but just communications from that standpoint. I will expect to have additional data as it comes along, and as the study gets more final, there will be another presentation at least to the board.
Go ahead.
I would just like to add a little bit more work to your plate there, if we can, maybe if the commissioners agree. Step it up one notch on communication to our staff. Like, you, please reach out to them. If they're not reaching out to you, let them tell you no. Don't wait for them to call you. That way, we've checked all of our boxes, okay? If that's agreeable to you guys.
Sounds good to me. Sherry?
My comment was just, there was a lot of questions yesterday at the meeting, and when can department heads expect to get some responses to their questions?
Yeah, we're hoping by end of week for those initial responses that we've received ahead of yesterday's conversation. Follow-up conversations are looking towards next week.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. Move to 7K, consideration of possible action, update and recommendations regarding the fiscal year 2027 Churchill County budget. Sherry?
Hi, this is just an update of our budget. I have hard copies if you want a hard copy of the supplemental request. That was the PDF on there. This is just showing everything that we saw that you approved in the budget hearings. And so the question is there anything on there that you see that you didn't approve, that there was any misunderstanding on our part? We need to get to the department heads their tentative budgets by the 9th. And at this point, due to the job study not being all that concrete yet, we're not planning on putting the job study in the tentative budget. And it'll be an adjustment to the final budget, if that's okay with you guys. And yeah, so if you saw anything in there, or if we want to walk through it, Joe might have had a couple questions. And so that's all I have here. Thank you.
And thank you, Mr. Chair. Joe Sanford for the record. I would like to have at least some discussion specifically on the personnel requests. Some of the items specifically related to Parks and Recreation and the division of that department into essentially two departments with the 3C complex and community activities. If you look at the personnel requests, first quarter of the way down the page, there's a facilities position. That's actually the removal of the facilities coordinator position with movement to the 3C center. Department, later down the page, Parks and Rec Department 301, the removal of the office specialist, grade 39, step 1. That would be part of the move to the 3C department. I guess I'll just go over it. There is a reclassification of the deputy director to a director position. There would be a change of the facilities coordinator to an administrative assistant level position, as well as the change of a maintenance aide, which is a seasonal position, to a full-time position. The sum total of those changes is actually a small savings to the county, but it is what would be needed to recalibrate the departments as two separate departments. If the board does not wish to proceed with separating the departments, then no action would be needed, but obviously we wouldn't be separating the departments. There are some things in the Parks and Rec that are not part of the split, specifically the removal of the intern and then reclassing a leader to make it a PERS position. Obviously that is a request, but it is not part of the separation itself. There are other options. If you choose to do a split, but you would like us to not hire a position, make additional savings, or to create a position that's lower, I'm happy to entertain that, but this is the recommendation at this time.
Thank you, Joe. I'm fine with doing those. So it's the facility position, Parks and Rec Department 301, correct? Those two, and then the
2, 3, 4, and 6.
Yeah, that's fine.
In order to do the reclassification.
The entire Parks and Rec section, you want to approve that? Is that what you're saying? And then removal of the facilities, which is in general fund?
Yes. I think we need
Yes.
to, are you done talking about that?
No, go ahead.
I think we need to include the county manager line, since it's a credit. Never let your credits go.
So include that.
Yeah, they're going to be included already.
Well, it's not highlighted, so that's why
Yeah,
I'm-
well, I wanted to give you like a what you were actually increasing, so that's why it wasn't highlighted, but yeah, no, those were done.
Okay, does that answer personnel request for you, Joe? And Sherry?
On the personnel request, I would like to circle back, if we could, to if we can, talk about a little bit more of the planning position. Mr. Hines has been asking for that for, I think, at least 2 years, maybe 3 years. And he always strives to keep his budget pretty flat. And I've been in the office there, and I've seen what he's trying to get done, and that's pretty important. So if we could reconsider that for a minute to see if we can move that along and be helpful to that department. Does anybody have any thoughts on that?
And that's the add intern 19 weeks grade.
Yep. Yes, sir.
Yep, that's fine with me, if we want to do that.
It's fine.
Okay, so we'll include that on top of there. Anything else?
Not on personnel.
I mean, I have something, but I was really hoping to speak with the sheriff. I'm going to speak with him this afternoon. But, we have a vehicle policy, and maybe we can just speak to it now. The K-9 unit. Sheriff Hickox, can you remind me again, if you have it off the top of your head, the mileage of that current K-9 unit?
That K-9 unit is in excess of 120, about 125 right now, I think. It was 121 and change when we made the proposal. I know that they've been called out a couple of times, and so I would guess that it's right around 125 without being too definitive on that. I believe, based off of conversations with Gary, it's one of our highest usage vehicles as far as the number of miles that it occurs. So by the end of the fiscal year, it will have amassed a lot more miles.
So I would like to consider adding that to our budget. I'm getting my glasses back on.
Yes, it'd be on the capital under
Yeah.
sheriff. There's 4 vehicles there, so we were just looking at one.
Yeah, my main concern is that K-9 unit. I didn't have a chance to meet. Sheriff was busy. I was busy on certain days, so we didn't get met. But I would assume that would be the one that you would.
Absolutely. If we were to only get one, I would beg for that one, just because if it breaks down, we have a dog in it. It's not a car I
You're
want to
right.
play with. So if we only get one, I would definitely ask for that one to be it.
And I feel like Gary's or you're on the same page. Thank you. That's how that's supposed to work, right? So.
Yeah. And that's fine with me if you want to do the one K9 since there's such high mileage on the one we have now.
I just feel like we've got to start somewhere with some of this stuff, because if we keep kicking this can down the road and then we've got all these vehicles with 130,000 miles on them, we're just going to get buried. So I think we need to start somewhere.
Small bites at the apple, yeah. Okay, so we're in agreement with that. So that's on the capital outlay request. That's the one K9 vehicle. Is there anything else?
I'd like to circle back to one of my favorite places, the museum. The first email that the director sent was February the 3rd, 2023, that his roof was leaking. So it's been 3 years, and the roof's still not fixed. And I know that's not going to affect the current budget because we can draw from the reserves of our extraordinary repairs or the building reserve account. So I want to make sure we give good direction that that's going to happen. And then since that's been going on for so long and the air conditioner's been going on for almost 1 year, I want to see if we can get that into the reserve, draw from the reserves and either extraordinary repairs or the building reserve to make sure that's going to happen instead of waiting for something else to happen for it to happen. So if you guys would agree with that, then I think we can help staff get that moving forward to make sure those two things happen.
I'm in agreement. Okay.
And then I'd like to make sure we're going to have another workshop to discuss the budget, if you guys want to, what you're thinking. And I'd like to wait as long as we can, maybe, until we get way good numbers for the comp study, if we could. And then anything else that County Manager Spross may have on his plate that he's been trying to clean up or finish to present. I don't know if he does or not.
I was going to suggest that if we're having a rolling agenda item for the compensation study, maybe it would benefit us to have a rolling agenda item for this, but then you had just mentioned that you would rather wait until we're a little further down the road. I think it's important, we made some changes today. I think it's important we kind of stay abreast of where we are dollar-wise. And so that would just be my suggestion, that maybe we have a short discussion about
I think
this.
in between now and when we get better numbers from the compensation study, we can use the numbers we have, and then we'll be able to adjust. I'm comfortable doing that. I agree with both of you,
Okay.
but I think we can have some discussions about the budget using those numbers and knowing those might change a bit.
I would like to comment. You said you're moving forward with the tentative budget without the numbers from the comp study?
That's correct. Excuse me, because they're not solid,
Okay.
and so it would be just a waste of time to
Okay.
try to
So-
fit these in the various departments. So right now, yeah, we were going to pass out the March 9th budgets to the departments heads, the tentative, and then they're supposed to be able to meet with the county commission, or not, with the county manager if they have any questions from March 12th to the 13th. And then we would bring the tentative budget back to you on April 2nd, because it has to be done, it can't be a moving target. It has to be able to be put into state forms by April 15th, which takes time.
I understand that. I guess my concern, and if I'm wrong, tell me, you're not putting that number in the budget at all.
That's correct.
So I'd like to use one of your favorite phrases. I'd like to have a placeholder and use the numbers that we sort of talked about a little bit, or maybe get with Mr. Sanford what he thinks, you know, if he's got a new number, to build that into the budget so we sort of know and we're not have a huge surprise and have to make unnecessary discussion or action.
I can put it in the contingency fund in the general fund. It just wouldn't be allocated out to like Parks and Rec, social services, because they do not have a contingency in those special revenue funds.
But you understand what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying. Yeah, I want some sort of number in there
Yeah,
so we know.
I can do that.
Number.
That's it.
So,
Give me a number.
Mr. Stanford, can you help with that?
Yeah, I'll get you the best number that we have. As you know, the board kind of gave its early indications of what it would like in terms of an implementation plan, and so we can get together and I'll give you that number.
Yep, I agree with you on that one. Is there anything else anyone wants to add? Okay. Do we need a motion on that? No. Is that enough guidance, Joe? Just with the record and everything?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. We'll jump to 7L, consideration and possible action, application to PERS to renew the certification of emergency manager position for Churchill County as a critical labor shortage position. Joe?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Joe Sanford for the record. PERS requirements in Nevada statute require that any position that we have that is filled by a PERS retiree that is going to make more than a set amount be designated as a critical needs shortage position. This is a form that we provide to PERS so that they understand that we continue to have that position filled. Currently, our emergency manager, Rich Ingram, is a PERS retiree. His funding would go over that amount, and so we do need this designation. That position has historically been extremely difficult to fill, especially as it is a part-time, non-benefited position, but also has substantial responsibilities. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Joe. Any questions or comments from board or staff? Is there any public comment? If none, a motion, please.
Mr. Chair, I move to designate the emergency manager position as a critical labor shortage pursuant to NRS 286.523 in accordance with PERS criteria effective April 6, 2026.
Mr. Chairman, I second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Thanks, Joe. Did anyone want to pull any of the letters received? Okay, we'll skip to old business 9A, consideration and possible action. Approval of the request to advertise bids for the proposed civil improvements for the employee parking lot located at 270 South Main Street, whereby the estimated cost for the project is $256,500. Randy?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Randy Hines, Public Works Planning and Building. If you guys recall, we brought this to you guys in November with an engineer's estimate of $256,000. It was decided to table that and to see if we can come up with ways to value engineer that and get that reduced. We had two options. We kind of considered the road department to do the work and decided that that's not really a road project, so we kind of scrapped that idea. We also went to the city to talk about draining the parking lot to whether it drains to the road or the alley. Unfortunately, there's significant improvements to their drainage system, curb gutter sidewalk that needs to be done, and that wouldn't come as a cost savings either. So today we feel that this, draining it in on itself, and what's proposed on these plans is kind of the best option we have, and we're just asking to go up to bid to see what we get for bids. And with that, I can answer any questions.
Thank you, Randy. Any questions or comments from board or staff? Is there any public comment? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I just have one question. We just need to decide how you're going to pay for this. What fund do you want to take it out of?
I think right now this is just bids, not accepting any actual
Okay.
bids. So,
Sounds good.
do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the request to advertise for the project to bid for the proposed civil improvements for the employee parking lot located at 270 South Main Street, Fallon, Nevada.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Randy. New business 10A, presentation of Liberty Vote USA voting machines and ballot marking devices. Linda, the floor is all yours.
Good morning, members of the board. Linda Rothery, Churchill County Clerk Treasurer, for the record. As I've mentioned in the last 2 budget years, we were transitioning with our election equipment from a VVPAT, which is the skinny printer that's on the right side of the voting machine, to an actual printer. And when we have, so as going forward with this has been approved, and we will be using it for this election cycle. When a voter is, you can change it to the next one. The voter will check in like they normally do at the kiosk, and then we'll give them a voter card. They'll go to the machine like they have in the past. It'll pull up their ballot. They'll vote that ballot right on the machine, and then when they've proofed it, they will print it, and it prints on an actual ballot. The printer will produce a full-faced paper ballot that will mirror exactly what's on the machine. That is making that a more tangible to the voters. Once the ballot is printed, it can be verified by the voter for their enhancing voters' confidence because they are reviewing their selection once again before they are submitting their ballot. The use of the ICX ballot marking device, which is the printer, they have their fancy names, of course. It'll reduce the number of ballots required adjudication. When we actually read all the ballots into our election equipment, this is a cleaner version of a ballot, so there's no problems with it because overvoting or you can't read what somebody's trying to intend, so we like this process. The system will ensure that only clean, marked, human readable is my term, that the machine will actually be able to read and the ballots then are cast. Today with me I have representation from Liberty Vote. They are our Churchill County's representation and all of state of Nevada. And also here is my Chief Deputy, Aaron Montalvo. We got a voter machine set up in the back that anybody, I would encourage the board and or public to test out this new version of how you're going to vote in June. And I have a short video. It's a 2-minute video. If you'd start that for me.
Thank you for being a Nevada voter. This video will demonstrate how to vote using Nevada's equipment. In this video, you'll learn how to access the ballot marking device, print your ballot, and cast your ballot. Upon entering the voting site, follow directions to an election worker who will check you in. They will verify your identity and voter status. Upon completion of check-in, you'll receive a vote card. Follow the election worker to a ballot marking device. To access your ballot, insert your vote card with the arrow facing up. During the voting session, the vote card should not be removed. Follow the prompts to make your selections. To select a candidate, tap the box next to their name. To change your selection, tap the same box again to clear it, then make another selection. Tap Next to move through the remaining contests, or skip to Review to jump to the ballot review. The ballot review shows your selections for all contests on the ballot. You must review your ballot before printing it. If you need to make changes, tap Back to Ballot. Prior to printing, the system displays a final warning message prompting you to review your ballot again and make any corrections. If satisfied, you'll confirm by touching the Print Ballot button. A confirmation message will appear. Select Print your ballot again. Your ballot will print on both sides and could be more than one page. Do not remove your ballot until you see a green check mark on the screen. Remove your voter card. Remove your ballot from the printer and review it for accuracy. Secrecy sleeves are available if you choose to use one. Take your printed ballot and vote card to the ballot box and hand your vote card to the election worker there. Then, insert your ballot into the ballot box. Return the secrecy sleeve to the worker and receive your I voted sticker. Thank you for voting in Nevada. For more information, please visit our website.
Very simple and to the point how you're going to vote. And this is nice because the Secretary of State's put this together for us, and then we are going to have that available on our website as well for anybody to watch. That being said, if you have any questions, I am here for that.
Thank you, Linda. Any questions or comments? Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you.
New business 10B, consideration of possible action, reappointment of Alan Calt and Gary Fowkes to each serve a 2-year term on the Board of Directors for the Fallon Golf Course Incorporated. Chris?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the Fallon Golf Course, Inc. is a nonprofit, tax-exempt organization that leases and operates the Fallon Golf Course. The organization has its own board of directors, which is appointed by this board to ensure that the strong ties with its mission to provide a high-quality course to the citizenship of Churchill County. In July of 2023, it was recommended and approved by the county commissioners that Alan Calt and Gary Fowkes serve initial terms in which the expiration date was December 31st, 2023. They were subsequently reappointed from January 2024 to December 2025 by a vote of the other directors of that corporation. The bylaws do not allow for further extensions by vote, and so it is recommended that the Board of County Commissioners reappoint Alan Calt and Gary Fowkes for additional 2-year terms ending in December 31st, 2027. Both Mr. Calt and Mr. Fowkes have both shown interest to be appointed once again. We thank them for their service. We are down one person on that board, and I think it makes a lot of sense to keep the continuity that we have with some of the longer-term board of directors, with Mr. Sanford having been recently appointed and has only been to one meeting. So it's our recommendation that both Mr. Calt and Mr. Fowkes are reappointed.
Thank you, Chris. Any questions or comments from board or staff? Is there any public comment? If not, a motion, please.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to reappoint Alan Calt and Gary Fowkes, to the Board of Directors of Fallon Golf Course, Inc., with terms expiring December 31st, 2027.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. 10C, consideration of possible action, revocation of appointment and official oaths for people who are no longer serving in the capacity of that position or have a more recent oath on file. Tara?
So I provided a list to the board of the oaths that we need to revocate because those individuals are no longer in the capacity that they have those official oaths for. So I just ask that we are able to revocate those and clean up our official oaths.
Thank you, Tara. Any questions or comments from board or staff? Is there any public comment? If not, a motion, please.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the revocation of appointment of official oaths for the people listed on the document who are no longer serving in that capacity or who have more recent official oath on file.
Mr. Chairman, I second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Did anyone want to pull anything off of the consent agenda items? If not, a motion to approve those, please.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Those are approved. 12, consider future agenda items. Does anyone have anything they want to put on the agenda?
I would just like to clarify. So I am going to just roll over the compensation study and budget hearing
Correct.
items on each until you guys just say that's enough.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Tara. Commissioner and management staff reports. We'll start with you, Commissioner Hyde.
Yes, I'll start off with Parks and Rec. We had a meeting this week. Some numbers came in. Some flag football currently has 167 kids signed up, which is good to see. Had the Bull Cell, MBU, wrestling, several events over at the 3C Arena. The wrestling had a little over 5,000 the regional youth wrestling tournament attendees, which of approximately 3,300 were from at least 30 miles away or further. So like to have them coming and spending their money in Churchill County for sure. Aquatic Center, have a whole thing here that she put together. Amazing little, I'm going to put this up here for people to come look at. Lots of things going on there. It's extremely busy all of a sudden. I think we're coming into a fairly warm spring. We've had a fairly warm winter. Full lap swimmers, full free swimmers. So that's good to see. Did raise the transit rate to $20 for stall fees, just to basically cover our costs. That's it for that, pretty much. We went to DC last week, continue working on the base expansion, trying to move that forward. 2 days jam-packed with meetings. A lot of walking from place to place, metro rides. A lot of work was done. We'll see if any of it comes to fruition. We're very hopeful. There's been some progress made on the road realignment for Sand Canyon, which is great. Chris Ross has been working on that over the last year, and I think that's been the most progress. So that's hopeful. Hattie Fallon Youth Club meeting. Did have the director resign and a few other employees, so there's some struggles going there. Nothing that we can't get through. We're used to struggles. It's just really a struggle when you're trying to hire anybody right now. So, but things are moving forward. Thank you.
I was in DC as well last week. I was there to meet our federal representation, and I was also there for the National Association of Counties legislative meeting, which was very informative. It's always fascinating to see what's going on the federal level with counties and politics and stuff like that. So that's all I have. Commissioner Blakey?
Traveled to a telecom conference for CCCOM and learned about the future of the industry, which is very prosperous. Also attended Washington, D.C., and we're continuing to work hard for this county on everything we have with them. And then on behalf of this board, I'd like to congratulate the Churchill County girls basketball team for winning the state championship recently. So another championship on the wall over there. We have many, and we'll have many more. And that's all I have today.
Congratulations to them. Sherry? Wade?
Just that our new civil deputy DA has started. She was here, but it looks like she took off. So she escaped. So yeah, she's got work to do. Sure.
Cecilia Blue came to us. She had almost 30 years of practice in Chicago.
I'm sorry, I thought y'all could hear me. I apologize. She has almost 30 years of practice in Chicago, which is where her law degree is from. She also has a Master's of Business Administration, which is also helpful. She will be under Wade, and she'll be helping with child support, DCFS, juvenile probation, and some other things that she wanted to do. She comes to us from the Nevada Attorney General's office, where she was doing prisoner appeals when they were appealing the fact that they weren't getting peanut butter on a daily basis. And she got tired of answering those lawsuits and decided she would like to do some real law. So she decided to come out here with us, and we're very, very lucky to have her. So far, she's working out real well. I don't know where she went. She escaped, and I don't blame her. That probably shows a good sense. But she'll be around, and you'll be seeing her, and we're very proud to have her. And we'll have Wade just keep her on the straight and narrow. Does that sound about right, Wade? Okay. Thank you, gentlemen.
Chris?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I too attended Washington, D.C. To meet with the Nevada delegation. I have a few items to follow up on that I will continue to pursue. The last thing, I was not selected to the committee, the Rural Health Transformation Committee. I will stay in touch with that. That's kind of a 5-year program. So I'll kind of keep following along and see how things go there. That's all I got.
Thank you. Linda?
Our office has been actually very busy. The property taxes were due on Monday, and that is for the 4th installment. It's in its 10-day grace period, so encouraging everybody to go pay their taxes if they have not. My investments that we had for January, all the returns were over $243,000. So that's a nice income still. We're still seeing it pretty steady right now with all the interest rates. We just finished up a mock election, and that went well. Candidate filing also started on Monday, and for the non-judicial offices, it'll run till Friday of next week.
Okay, thank you. Tara? Denise?
So we have concluded our Board of Equalization hearings, and we have sent out the tax cap claim forms, so everybody make sure you submit those for your residential properties.
Thank you. Sheriff?
So our office has been doing a lot of training, leadership, and on also some train the trainer. I went over and met with Post to continue the evaluation and possible resolution to some issues we've been having with treatment of cadets that are over there and use of time. We have some questions and concerns about how that's going. And so there's myself and several other sheriffs have met with them to get those issues addressed, and I think we're making good progress. Myself and several other members of our office attended the Western States Sheriff's Association training and conference this past week. I had the honor of carrying the Nevada flag during the opening ceremonies, and it was good training on jail operations, leadership, and some critical incident stuff on how to set up ICs, that kind of pre-planning. We submitted for a grant. We already got notified that we did not get it, but we will continue to seek those. We have another one that we're working with Rich Ingram and the Emergency Management Office, along with the city, on United We Stand, and so we'll be presenting that to that board next week. It deals with anti-terrorism stuff. We attended the high school job fair and talked to some young men about hopefully becoming sheriffs and deputies in the future. So trying to get that seed planted early. We have a meeting today with the base to go over any concerns about what's going on in Iran. The day that incident kicked off, we reached out to the base to make sure that there was nothing we needed to do further for them. If there was, to let us know. They have since reached out to us and said that they would like to have a meeting, and so that's what's happening today. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. Claims and payroll are going around. At this time, is there any public comment?
I'd like to just remind everybody that you can go play with our election equipment.
Thank you, Linda. Is there any other public comment? Okay, we stand adjourned. Thank you, everyone.